Welcome to Leading Real Life, a podcast to help you step into your role as leader in your own life, but in the home as well. So I'm Rob, this is Shannon, and together we make up Leading Real Life.
Yes, we do.
So if you like the podcast, if you find anything exceptionally helpful, I want to encourage you, first of all, to share with somebody
Yes, please.
who could benefit from the things that we talk about, but also make sure that you are subscribed.
Yes.
You can catch us on any places that you get your podcasts. We're also on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
So this will be in long form in YouTube. We'll also do some shorts on YouTube as well.
Yep.
And you can find us on the socials.
Yep.
So Instagram.
Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We are there. You just search Leading Real Life. You'll find us.
Yeah, so I'm just going to be honest here. We have an existence on Twitter.
Yeah.
But if you go to talk to us there, I don't know.
Well, no, I think I'd get the message. I just never tweet anything.
Oh, yeah. And I definitely don't tweet anything.
So, yeah.
All right, so what is today's topic?
Today, we want to tell you about how our kids are perfect.
Yeah, that's funny. So we're going to talk about perfect kids.
Yes.
And where do we start? This is where I want to start.
Okay.
You.
Oh, all right.
I mean, as a child, you must have been perfect, right?
Well, probably, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I was the baby, so
Oh, yeah. I never did
Therefore,
anything wrong.
I was... You're the baby, too.
Oh, yeah.
You forgot about that,
I
didn't
forgot
you?
about that
Just-
fact.
You were more of a troublemaker than I was.
Yeah, so I definitely wasn't a perfect kid.
No, I wasn't a perfect kid. I mean, I am a rule follower, I would say.
Oh, yeah?
But I've always had this little problem, and that would be not recognizing the tone of my voice and then getting in trouble at school all the time with teachers because they thought I was being snotty. And in reality, I wasn't intending to be. I just didn't hear how I sounded when I talk.
That's funny.
So I did get kicked out of the class a few times. I got sent to
yeah?
the principal's office a couple times. So
And I was perfect.
of course you were.
No, I was a disturber of the peace. So I always got kicked out of class, but it was usually because I wasn't focused. It was usually because I was causing problems and trying to make people laugh.
Right.
As far as I was just like, I don't know. I think I was on an adventure in my mind everywhere I went. And so it was a little bit of a poop disturber.
Right.
But not a bad one. Like I was a good-spirited kid.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
I think that what we really want to talk about today is entitlement.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What we want to talk about is where our kids are at today, because if you look at what people are talking about, there's a sort of message that says kids are so entitled today.
Yeah.
And the reason that we talked about us right off the bat is because I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, of course.
Yeah.
But is it so much greater than it was in our time?
I think what happens is our perspective shifts as we grow,
Yes.
right? So now we're looking at children from adult eyes, and
Right.
we're seeing attitude and all of this behavior that we're like, oh, we never acted that way when we
Right.
were kids. But I guarantee you, our parents thought the same thing.
Yes.
That kids these days, isn't that always been the same? Oh,
Okay.
kids these days.
And I have a great quote for that.
Okay.
So you think that this is something new. You think that now, not you, I'm just saying a person. A
Okay.
person might think this is something new.
Right.
Now we're saying, oh, the kids are like this because it's true.
Yeah.
Here's a great quote for you.
Yeah.
The children now love luxury. They have bad manners, contempt for authority. They show disrespect for elders and love chatter in place of exercise. Children are now tyrants, not the servants of their households. They no longer rise when elders enter the room. They contradict their parents, chatter before company, gobble up dainties at the table, cross their legs, and tyrannize their teachers. All right. And so you might think, oh man, that sounds like something they would have said in the 60s, right?
Yeah.
That was Socrates.
Right. And when was he around?
Oh, what, 2,500 years ago?
I don't know, like the 1600s or something, or way before that?
Way before that.
Oh, geez.
Before Common Era.
Oh, okay.
Right?
So a long time
Yeah,
ago.
I think he's 2,500 years ago.
Yeah. So clearly, every adult has this perspective of children. Because when we're kids, we're just being kids,
Yeah.
right? But as soon as we become adults, we're looking at children and expecting them to behave as adults behave.
Yes.
When in reality, kids are learning, and it is our job to teach them how to behave, but
Ah,
to not
yes.
necessarily expect perfect behavior from them.
Yes. And so there's things that I think that we have to recognize, right?
Yes.
Like there are luxuries today that we didn't have as kids.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Like,
Like-
okay, yeah, think about Saturday morning.
Right.
That was when we watched cartoons.
I had to watch it in black and white.
You had no PVRs. You had to make sure you were in the room if there was commercials, right? We
You
didn't
held your
have,
pee for an hour and a
Yes,
half
you didn't
to 2
have,
hours if you needed to.
you know, all day cartoons. You didn't have electronics in your hands. We didn't have the internet.
No. There wasn't information at our disposal at all times.
So it is a very different place. However, it was also a different place for our parents, and it was a different place for their parents. And
Absolutely.
each generation has a different experience.
Yeah, so I do think that on some level, that does feed into the entitlement.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Because you just are able and capable of getting what
Yeah.
information you want when
Yeah.
you want it. For example, when I was a kid and I played a video game, when it got really hard and I didn't know what to do, I had to figure it out.
Right. You couldn't go find out on YouTube.
You
what
can, and
the
now
move
you can
was.
do anything like that. Like, how do I build a car? I'll
Yeah.
just Google that.
Yeah,
Let's go to
exactly.
YouTube and we'll find a
Yeah.
DIY.
You can literally find out how to do anything
Right?
online.
So what that ends up doing, I feel like, is it creates in us a capability that we just have.
Yeah.
Like we have the ability to find the answer now.
Yeah.
We have the ability to get what we want now.
Mm-hmm.
And so to say, don't use that, don't
Yeah.
use that capability,
Yeah.
is kind of like, well, why?
Yeah, exactly. Why wouldn't we continue to use technology
Mm-hmm.
as it grows? Because if we don't, suddenly we won't be able to function in the world, really.
No, that's absolutely true. So we do have to take into account that, yes, today's technologies, the way the world, the information, all of that does play in to entitlement.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that our kids are somehow
Right.
wired or just naturally more entitled.
Yeah. I think the problem is in society we're more entitled.
Oh, absolutely, we're more entitled.
So we as adults, like we act as if kids and teenagers are the ones who are so entitled. But come on, every single generation alive right now is entitled in one way or another.
Oh, okay. So yes, and I don't want to call it a whole generation,
Yeah.
but like I see boomers
Yeah.
acting entitled. So at church,
Yeah.
right? Like I've paid the bills for this many years. I'm entitled to
Yes.
have church how I want it. Oh, that's never every single one,
No, of course not. Never.
but it's there and it exists.
Yeah.
Does it exist in me?
Of
Yes.
course. We all have things that make us entitled.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the key is to recognize that and try and call it out in ourselves
Yes.
when we see it.
Yes.
Like we need to be aware of when we're acting entitled.
Absolutely, because our kids are watching us
Yeah.
and our kids are mimicking us.
Yeah,
And so you
exactly.
see it over and over again. I think, you know, if mom or dad's a bully,
Yeah.
there's just more propensity or possibility for the kid
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
to say, hey, well, this is what works, or
Yeah.
this is how I see I am supposed to interact with society.
Yeah.
And it's a learned
Exactly.
position, right?
Well, you think about when you were a kid and like, okay, so say, you know, I'm thinking quite little. So like grade 1, grade 2, and you get in an argument oh my gosh, can I spit that out? You'd get in an argument with your friend,
Yeah.
right? And you'd be like, well, my mom said, or well, my dad said, right? We take the things we learn at home and apply them to our life as
That's
children.
right,
And
right.
so when they see us acting a certain way, they're going to do the same thing.
Absolutely, they will. And I think some of it's not even thought through at all in
Yeah.
any way, right? Like
Yeah.
they'll just know that, okay, that's possibly a way to react to in anger
Yeah.
or frustration. And then they just do it
Yeah.
because it's what they're used to.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I think of Lainey. She'll copy things that I say.
Oh, yeah, she does.
Right?
Yeah.
Or behavior. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, oh man, I have to be so aware of how I'm acting around
Mm-hmm.
her and the things I'm saying because she is learning everything from me
Mm-hmm.
and she's just recycling it.
Absolutely. And it's not just at that age, right? Like, so that age has a high copycat,
Yes.
like that's their tactic for
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
life. That's how they do life. They copy mom.
Yeah.
But like, as a 14-year-old, our daughter's going to be watching us
Yeah.
to see how to interact in relationships.
Right, exactly. And
Right?
in society.
Yeah. So like, even I know that because when we got married, because my parents were faithful and strong through their whole marriage, they didn't get a divorce.
Yeah.
I just knew in me that that wasn't going to happen in my life.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
it was very important who I married and that you shared the same
Yeah.
ideal.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, this is something that is kind of through a big portion of our life until we separate from our parents.
Yeah.
We are taking what parents do and we are mimicking in a lot of ways. At
Yeah.
least we are learning.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's important for us to understand this.
Yes.
We are, in fact, the ones who teach them whether they should be entitled or not.
Exactly. We are the greatest
That
influence.
wasn't the greatest way to say that.
Okay.
Whether they should be entitled or not. We teach them entitlement.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. We are their biggest influence.
Yes, we are. Yeah, you said it and then nailed it again. Okay. So thank you for clarifying what I was trying to. But here's the deal. So is this our fault?
Well,
When we see entitled kids,
Yeah.
right? Because there's no doubt that it's out there that we have entitled kids. Is this our fault? Should we get into that?
well, I mean, we are our kids' biggest influence,
Mm-hmm.
and we are responsible for them. However, our children are still individuals,
Mm-hmm.
and they're still gonna learn behavior from society, from peers, from friends, from teachers, from
Yeah.
TV, from all of the things that they surround themselves with.
Yeah.
However, I think as parents, we do need to take responsibility
For sure.
and recognize if we see it in our kids and figure out, okay, this is a problem that we have probably started to create. We need to do something about it.
For sure. Yes. I think that a massive part of that is that we need to move away from fault finding.
Yeah.
Because it's like, we say, oh, is it my fault?
Right.
I think the danger there is actually that when we ask that question, what we tend to do is not actually look inward, but look outward.
Yeah.
Right? We say, is it my fault? And then what we do is think that everybody else should be thinking of whether it's their fault or
Right.
not. And then we go, but look, it is your fault. And
Yeah.
look, it is I'm the one who's thinking about whether
Yeah.
it's my fault or not. I don't think you're doing that.
Yeah.
So the whole fault game, the blame game, is not helpful.
Right.
But we do need to think of what we can work on.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is be able to admit that our kids are not perfect,
What?
right?
I thought
know
the title of this was My Kids
Yeah.
Are Perfect.
it was ironic.
Oh,
Sarcastic?
I
I don't
thought
know.
ours actually were.
Oh, they are most definitely not
no,
perfect.
they're not.
And nobody's kid is perfect. But I think that as parents, we understand that our children's behavior when they're away from us reflects us, right? So if our kid is behaving poorly, we don't want to admit that maybe they have made a mistake because it does reflect poorly on us. And so instead we get defensive.
Yes.
And so say a teacher calls or emails and says, you know what, your kid was doing this today
Yeah.
and this is a problem.
Yeah.
Or they tell us your kid got in trouble because this.
Yeah.
And not in all cases, but I know that there are there are times when parents will get mad at the teacher and say, no, my kid didn't do that.
Yeah.
And if they did do that, it's your fault in some way,
Oof.
right? Like they shift the blame because they're probably embarrassed
Yeah.
that their kid did something
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah. And I would be too. I mean, we all are.
Absolutely.
For sure.
But we need to get away from doing that kind of thing and go, okay, let's talk about this. So have a conversation with the teacher, get some more details, then have a conversation with your kid.
Yeah.
Find out their side of the story and then work on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yes. And a key in this is that you may have to correct.
Yeah.
This might make your child sad.
Yes. That's okay.
That is okay. It
Yeah.
is okay for your child to be embarrassed
Yeah.
by their actions. It is okay for your child to feel sad for something that they've done wrong.
Yeah.
This is the natural way to correct inappropriate behavior.
Exactly.
If we try and shelter them from every bad feeling, especially ones that they've created themselves,
Yeah.
we are stepping in and creating a monster is what I want to say. But we're stepping in and we're taking away what naturally works
Yeah.
to help like self-regulate
Yeah.
improper actions.
Yeah,
Like, I don't want to feel bad.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
But if we step in and say, you don't need to feel bad about this.
Yeah.
Right? Never feel bad.
Yeah. Then we create a child who doesn't understand how to recognize their internal emotions.
Yeah, exactly. Which are trying to correct them.
Exactly.
Right?
Like, we feel guilty for a reason.
Yes.
Like, there is always guilt in life that is unnecessary.
For sure there is.
But when we do something wrong and we feel bad, that is for a reason. It's so that our insides are telling us, don't do that again.
Yeah.
That wasn't okay.
And trust me, I get it. Like, I hate when I have to correct my kids and it makes them sad.
Oh,
like,
for
even
sure.
cry.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they feel guilty
Yeah.
or feel bad.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good.
No.
Nobody ever wants to make you don't want to make your kids feel bad.
No. And also important, though, to understand that we don't do it as like to make them guilty. Like,
Right.
we don't try and lay on guilt.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
this isn't a tactic. What we're doing is saying, this is what's wrong and this is why it's wrong.
Yeah.
And often that makes them feel bad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like Pinocchio,
Yes.
right?
Exactly like him. How?
Well, in Pinocchio, the fairy tells him, always let your conscience be your guide. He never listened to his conscience, who was Jiminy Cricket. He ignored him.
Look at the depth that you know this story.
Well, we were doing it in film school.
all right. No, and that's good.
But the purpose of Jiminy's character, the conscience, is to try and keep Pinocchio on the straight and narrow. He didn't listen to him, and then look what happened. He just about got turned into a donkey and then was eaten by a whale.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Actually, Jiminy's Geppetto was eaten by a whale. He went to fix him. I'm getting off track. But either way, conscience, guilt, all of these things
Yeah.
are meant to help us be better people.
Absolutely. Yes. So don't step in the way of conscience. If
exactly.
anything, illuminate what needs to happen.
Yeah.
And it's just illuminating. It's not being the judge.
Yeah.
Right?
you
Or the
remember-
executioner.
Do you remember that movie Wonder?
Yeah, it was good.
Okay, so if you've never seen the movie Wonder, I highly recommend it. It was a beautiful movie. But there's this scene where there's a kid who's a bully, right? And he had done something horrible to the main character, and he gets in trouble for it. And the parents come in and shift the blame onto the principal and onto this kid. And the kid who's done the wrong thing was feeling bad, right? He knew in his heart what he'd done was wrong.
Yeah.
But his parents came in and said, no, what you did wasn't wrong because that kid is weird and he's right and we're pulling him out of school and stuff like that. Like, they literally
Yeah,
came in
I remember that.
and took away the opportunity to teach their child,
Yes.
you know.
And he was doing it himself.
Yeah.
He was in the middle
Yeah.
of teaching himself what was right and wrong
Yeah.
by Jiminy Cricket in his life, his
Exactly.
conscience. And he had that taken away by his parents.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's a movie, it's fiction. However, we can learn real life lessons from fiction.
Absolutely.
So-
It happens when when my kid does something wrong and I don't discipline it.
Yeah.
And I get that there's parents who don't like the word discipline, but like even just like pointing it out.
Yeah.
Right? Don't
Yeah.
speak to that person that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
That kind of a thing.
Well, and we're setting them up for their future, right? Like,
Yes.
if we never allow our children to feel bad and therefore change their behavior, they're going to grow up and they're not going to know how to function in society, right? They're never going to be able to keep a job
Yeah.
because they're going to constantly be, not listening to their boss
Yeah.
because they haven't learned to respect authority.
No, because there's no consequences. Just move on.
Exactly. So, like, if you're always coming in there and saving your child from uncomfortable situations,
Oh, forget it. Yeah.
you're not helping them
Yeah.
in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it also then plays into how much do we do for them.
Yeah,
Because that's a great
exactly.
thing you brought in there. Like,
Yeah.
we're trying to take them out of every situation. How much do we do for them? And this gets us into
Right.
chore charts.
Yeah.
So I know that's like, what? Okay, how? What? Okay, why are we talking about chore charts?
Right.
There's a good reason we're going to bring up chore charts here.
Yes. We have a company called Big Word Books. And we had a chore chart created because there's a character in the book, the You Inside You, who likes to clean up rooms. So we created a chore chart as a resource for parents to just, help their kids instill this responsibility. Well, let me tell you. The response that we got, and like keep in mind that at this point we don't have a ton of followers, right? So it's unusual that we receive any sort of engagement from people who don't
That's right.
follow us.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it was like a keyword or a hashtag or what, but we had these warriors come on and attack us about this chore chart. So we get these kinds of comments. Labor housework is the parent's job. 2 Corinthians 12:14. Stop exploiting kids. Another comment.
I don't think it says that in there, just so you know. I don't think that was the direct quote.
Another person says, utter nonsense. My kids are adults today, but growing up, they never had regular chores, and neither did I. Chores aren't a child's responsibility. Play is. Reading through the comments on a chore chart page, I could not wonder, are parents crazy? Why exactly must a 2-year-old sort recycling, for example? Blah, 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 on and on and on they go. Basically just coming down and saying, like, children should never have responsibility, ever, in life. And so then I want to read this one comment from a friend who, this is what she said. I had a roommate who never had to do anything at home as a child. My other roommates and I had to show her how to do the dishes, laundry, get groceries, etc. That was fun. All the utensils, plates, and cups were always scattered around in her room. Her mom showed up whenever it was her turn to clean the apartment and did it for her. Like, they're adults at this point, right? They're living on their own. Some people are raising interesting humans. You're not exploding your kid by letting them do some chores here and there. You're preparing them for their future.
Exactly. So I just 100% disagree with anyone who tells me that your kids should never have any responsibilities.
Exactly.
It's wrong. There's nothing correct about it.
No.
All the childhood psychology information I read on it points to they have better well-being.
Yeah.
They have an understanding of who they are and what
Yeah.
their purposes are, and they can
Exactly.
go into their future with more strength
And more confidence.
when you give them responsibility.
Exactly.
So if you hear that, and even if you disagree with me right now,
Yeah.
you're wrong. And then I've got to take it further on that.
Yeah.
I responded to them.
Yeah.
Right? And I wasn't harsh.
No.
And they responded to me with this: fool!
You fool.
You fool! And I had to end up responding, and this was me probably going too far, and just saying, like, if this is an indication of what an adult ends up being,
Yeah.
you're only strengthening my point.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, if this is how you talk to other humans, and
Yeah.
you were raised, because they said they were raised this way,
right.
and this is how you're responding to other humans, you were raised with this tactic,
Yeah.
this is only strengthening the point that
Exactly.
kids need responsibility.
Yes, they do. And it doesn't, like, there's a difference between a parent who is, treating their child like Cinderella. Okay, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about age-appropriate chores
Yes.
that our kids are able to do. And, like, if you have ever been around a toddler, they have so much joy when they help you with something.
And we were just talking about it with Lainey earlier.
Yeah,
Right?
like they want
She's
to
2.
help.
Yes.
And it is something that you let them, and to be honest, sometimes it's actually more frustrating to let them help and to give them chores, because often it's so much easier if you just do it yourself. But that's not helping them.
No.
Right? So, like, if Lainey wants to help me unload the dishwasher, I'm really going to say no to that? No. Your job is to play. Like, for her, this is fun. For her, this is learning. And for her, this is something that we're doing together.
Yes. There's a time to play.
Yeah.
And play is good. You don't not do play and only
No.
make them work.
No.
But you don't take away their chance to have some responsibility.
Yeah, because
Right?
the last thing we want to do is raise kids who don't know how to function as
Yeah.
adults, and their roommates have to do everything for them.
How do they become autonomous?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Without being able to do things for
And,
themselves.
yeah, it's
All right.
it's just crazy. We could go on and on.
We could go on forever. But then in that comes also, how do you teach them to care for other people when
Yeah.
all you're doing is teaching them to
Exactly.
concern themselves? Like, okay, I have to go back to chores and stuff. What do you do when you send them to another person's home
Yeah.
to hang out with their friends,
Yeah.
and that family cleans up after themselves?
Yeah.
Your kid just sits there like,
Yeah, not having a clue.
right?
Yeah.
And that looks like entitlement.
Exactly. Well, and then your kid gets labeled as lazy too, right? Like, you've created a lazy child And that's not good.
And it's not good to create labels on people and
No.
all that stuff.
But I'm just saying that, that kid goes
No,
to the
I
friend's
know.
house, the parents are, man, that kid's lazy.
Yeah, like,
Right?
right?
And that is like the last thing I want to do.
Yeah. So are we teaching them to make sure that they get in them the capacity to not make themselves the single most important thing
Yes.
on the face of the earth?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like when we are, a part of responsibility is caring for others.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is a household.
Yeah.
Right? This is a village.
Yeah.
When you're a part of the village, you help take care of what needs to be taken care of. That's what you're teaching.
Yeah.
When you teach that, you help to teach care for other people.
Yes, exactly.
Right? So when
Yeah.
you teach them to only do it for themselves, so what you're teaching them is a scarcity mentality.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're teaching them, I need to make sure I'm taken care of.
Right. Exactly.
And not worry about you.
Yeah.
Like you're the least of my concern
Yeah.
because I'm the greatest of my concern.
Yeah.
But it's super important for us to get them to care for things other
Yes.
than themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So what does that look like?
Well, I mean, what we need to do as parents is show them what that looks like, right? Show them how we care for each other by, yes, we do things for them sometimes because we love them,
Of course.
but with our
Or if they're really, really slow at it and it's really painful, yes, we do things for our kids.
But like we want to show them by how we treat others. So, if we're married, we show them this in how we take care of our partner, right?
Yeah.
How we treat our partner, how we
Yes.
love our partner, or how we are in friendships or in community. All of these things, we want to show them how to care for other people by doing things for other people.
Absolutely. And it's just a part of caring for something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Caring for other humans, caring for your partner, caring for your family, doing what's necessary. It actually does make your own life easier.
Yeah.
But it cares for everyone as a whole.
Yeah.
And in society, we actually have this notion that's more like, you scratch my back, I'll
Yeah.
scratch yours.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So like, if I do this for you, I better see something in return.
Right.
But that's not actually what we should be teaching
No.
our kids.
No, absolutely not. Like we should be understanding that if we do something for someone, it's out of the goodness of our heart, not to get something in return.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, I think about when I was a teenager. I had a friend. He moved. So I'm from a small town, like very small town. My graduating class had six
small
people
town.
in it. Like there's no longer a school.
I went to a graduation there with one person.
That was the very last one, and then the school closed.
So very small.
Okay, so very small farming community in Saskatchewan, and there was a guy that moved from Vancouver to Sunningdale. Okay, so you've got to imagine the culture shock to go from a big city like Vancouver to a tiny, tiny little town, and he came to live with his grandparents. His upbringing hadn't been great. He had a mom who didn't necessarily care for him. So basically, he was on his own from the time he was a young child. And I remember he came, I think we were in grade 8 when he came. And I remember having a conversation with him about, it was so long ago, so I can't remember the details, but basically it was kind of like, don't you care about orphans, or don't you care about, poverty, or don't you care about, fixing these problems in the world?
Yeah.
And he's like, no. Why would I care about that?
Yeah, exactly.
That doesn't
Yeah.
affect me.
Yeah.
Right? So he basically had grown up to only care about himself. And that was because he had to survive.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about that the other day. And you know what? After a little while of being in a place where he had people that cared for him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, his grandparents were maybe a little rough around the edges, but they cared for him.
Yes.
In that they gave him a home. And
We're all rough around the edges.
He found community.
Yeah.
He found friends that cared for him. And it helped to soften him a lot. And so what I was thinking about is how in our society we do have a lot of people who are just in that mode, right? Survival. They do not have the capacity to care for other people.
Yeah, some of them don't. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think what we need to recognize is that if we have the capacity to care for other people, we need to be okay caring for people who will never give us anything in return.
Absolutely true.
Because if we can do that, then hopefully that will help get those people out of those survival situations.
Yes.
So that they can thrive.
Excellent. Yeah.
And then hopefully from there, they can start to care for other people as well.
Yeah. We have a world. Thank you for sharing that story. That was a really good story. We have a world that has a bartering system when it comes to care for one another.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It's like when I do something for you, it's a payment plan.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'm going to expect then that, and what that ends up creating is a transactional relationship
Right.
rather than that interactional, or what these people, what a person in, say, survival mode who is struggling to care for other people needs is for me to hope for them.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Not to expect a certain behavior,
Yeah.
not to expect that my goodness would correct them in any way.
Yeah.
But what it is like, I just need to maybe lighten your load.
Yeah.
Because your load is so heavy,
Yeah.
I can see it's causing a burden.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Well, okay, so for example, this is a really extreme example, but right now, what we're seeing in Ukraine, people fleeing for their lives,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so the countries around have just opened their borders and said, it doesn't even matter if you have a passport, you just need to come.
Yeah, exactly.
Get out of there.
Yeah.
And there will be no return on that
Yeah.
generosity.
Yeah.
But that's the situation that they're in right now. We need to be willing to do that in all areas of our lives at all times.
Yeah. And I'm going to stick in that example and say it would be better if they were the same towards all cultures that are coming into
Yes,
different countries,
that
right?
is very true,
Like what
because-
we're talking about is like, it goes so deep. It's
Yeah.
like, don't just help the people that look like you, you
Yes,
know, and don't like, it's
yes.
so easy for me to say, I am going to help this person who is in survival mode.
Yeah.
And again, this is going back to me being an example to my children
Yeah.
because I want to prevent that entitled attitude. I'm showing them care.
Yeah.
I cannot show them care for one group of people.
Right. Yes.
Also, I need to show them care show them how I care for people who even would hate me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true.
Yeah. Because I am in control of me.
Yeah.
I am not in control of how you respond to me.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
But I also cannot let how you respond to me control me.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
So I think I'm glad that you went to the Ukraine because I think that there's a lot of that good stuff.
Yeah.
But it still
Yeah,
has that.
it has conditions because we're seeing people of color being treated so horribly at the border, and that's just so disheartening.
It's super disheartening. So there's an aspect of it. I think that what we're just trying to do here is like flesh that out.
Yeah.
Right. Say this needs to go deep.
Yes,
Right?
absolutely.
When you care for somebody and you're showing your child care,
Yeah.
don't care for this person, but then not this person.
Exactly.
Right? And then the whole idea that we actually started out on is that it's not about the payback.
Yes.
Right? It is not about the payout. It's not even about how good you feel about yourself for doing something.
Yeah.
It's that we just need to have hope in this world.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And teach our kids that it matters when you care
Yeah.
for other people.
Absolutely.
And so that's good. We went off there, right?
did.
On that one. But I also just think it's really important to care for something, even like not within the realm of everything ends up being people.
Right.
But like something.
Right.
Something.
Yes.
That is larger than you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
God is a person to us.
Yeah.
So God. Community.
Yep.
Church.
Yep.
If church is where you go.
Yeah.
There's a tons of places, like maybe an NGO.
Yeah.
Right?
There's all kinds of places where we can give sacrificially of our time, of our money, of our whatever, and show our kids, okay, this is how we care for others and care for things bigger than ourselves.
What about a creative project?
Yeah.
Right? Like that is something, what you're doing is saying, kids, look, I'm a part of this thing.
Yeah.
But it's not all about me.
Yeah.
Right? So I'll use the example of the kids' book that we wrote.
Right.
Right? So that's a project that we did that if it originated in my heart and in my head.
Yeah.
But I didn't do the 100% of the work.
Right.
And it would not be as amazing as it is if it wasn't for you, for Madison, our artist, for Sarah Wall, who got us, involved in doing some marketing and being a part of that.
Yeah.
Then even Trace and Bailey, like there was people that came in to make it what it is now, and that thing is greater than us, right? So like getting yourself attached to that thing that is greater than you is going to show your kids that it is important to take yourself down a notch.
Yeah.
Right? For something that could be so amazing.
Yeah.
And like we're looking for a world that is so amazing.
Yeah.
Like I think that's something worth fighting for. So show your kids that taking yourself down, right?
Show
for
them
show
them what teamwork is.
Yeah.
Show them what collaboration is.
Yeah.
Right? That's why sports are such a good thing, because they have to be a part of a team.
Absolutely.
Right?
And the interesting thing about sports is that you could argue, well, okay, sports teaches competition and competition teaches, entitlement and everybody, blah, blah, blah. The ideal with sport is that, yes, you strive to be the best.
Yeah.
Yes, you strive to win. But when you don't, you have something called sportsmanship.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
You lose graciously. And that speaks volumes.
Yeah. It's a huge learning opportunity in all of those areas.
And when I hear things in sports like, oh, that kid, he overreacted, that, like, it's fine that he did that because he's so competitive. No.
Right.
If that's my kid, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like doing something that is sulking or showing that you can't handle your loss.
Yeah.
I'm more proud of you losing.
Yeah.
And being able to maintain who you are in strength and courage.
Yeah,
I'm way more proud of that than I am of any gold medal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doing this, what we just said, right? Like caring for people, becoming a part of something that is larger than yourself. I think it does a really great job of showing you that while you're an important cog or you are an important person, you're not that important.
Right.
Like that sounds bad, but like it's good for us to all know that, you know what? Yes, we are important. Yes, we matter.
Yeah.
But not as much as sometimes we act like we do.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. Hopefully that didn't come off too harsh. But then the other thing with all of this is that we need to actually vocalize this to our kids.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. We need to have these conversations with them. I think we can think, well, I'm showing them, so therefore they see it and recognize it. But it is important to have these actual deep conversations with their kids and explain to them why it's important.
That's right.
Right? And if for example, let's go back to your kid got in trouble at school example. That is a really great learning opportunity for you and your kid.
Yeah.
So that helps you process the fact that your child is not perfect.
Yes.
That they've done something wrong. And then that helps you grow as a parent and say, okay, what have I possibly done? Like, where have I maybe had a misstep?
Right.
In my parenting. So you can reflect on what you've been doing.
Yeah.
And again, not every bad behavior from a child is one completely the fault of the parent.
Of course.
But this is our chance.
They're going to behave badly.
Exactly. This is our chance to, sit them down and talk to them and explain to them, okay, this is why that wasn't okay.
Yes.
And then we can
Agreed.
teach them how to care for others.
Yeah. So like we did talk about a long time ago that it's important to remember that do as I say, not as I do doesn't work, right?
Right. Yeah.
But it goes the other way as well.
Yeah.
Like if we think, okay, just follow my lead and we don't need to discuss this.
Yeah.
You don't know what other influences might be in your child's life, especially when you get into
Exactly.
teen years.
Oh, yeah.
You don't know if they're
Yeah.
listening to their friends more. You don't know if they're listening to a friend's parent more, a teacher more. So being able to actually say, okay, this is why we do what we do.
Yeah.
So telling Micah, this is why we go to church, right?
Yeah.
This is why it's important to us. That is key rather than just doing it
Yeah.
and never knowing at what capacity she's understanding why we do.
Well, and it keeps us active in their life, right?
Oh,
I
yeah.
think, like, okay, so especially when they hit the teen years, they get to this place where they really want to be alone a lot, right? So they like go up to their room,
Yes.
they hibernate in there, and it's very easy to disconnect with them as a parent because you're like, okay, I'm just going to let them have their space. But then suddenly you're like, I've gone weeks without having a real conversation with my
Yeah,
kid.
I don't know
What's
them.
happening?
Yeah.
What's going on in their
Yeah,
life?
for
So we
sure.
have to be so intentional
Yeah.
as our kids get older to stay active in their life.
Yeah.
And so having these kinds of conversations is a really good way to do that.
That's exactly true.
Right? So, like,
Yeah.
pull them aside, talk to them about what's going on in the world. Talk to them about what's going on in their life. Talk to them about what's going on in your life.
Absolutely.
Like, just be there and show up for them.
Yep.
And build a relationship with them.
Exactly. And now this relationship is not a relationship that is buddies and friends.
No.
This is a parent-child relationship. Down the road, you guys can be friends.
Yeah.
But for now, we're talking about, like, let's raise these kids so
Yes.
that they are not self-focused
Yeah.
little tyrants like Socrates likes to call them. This has been really good, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
I just really appreciate being able to get some of this stuff out because, honestly, some of this stuff, we've thought it out before we started talking here. But even then, when you get talking,
Yeah.
things come in.
Oh,
And you start
absolutely.
to, you know,
Well, and it can just be good self-realization as we talk it out.
yeah, absolutely.
And I hope that then it is let me say that again. I hope that it is then helpful to whoever is listening
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
hear the conversation and the back and forth and yeah.
So, are your kids little tyrants? Probably. At times, they're going to be little tyrants.
That's okay.
But it's okay. It's not about blaming yourself. It's
No.
not about blaming other parents when their kids are tyrants.
Yeah.
But let's be cognizant of
Yeah.
the things that we can do.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And the things that we.
Sorry. I was going to say just be realistic. Like nobody's perfect. So therefore our
Nobody's
kids aren't
perfect.
perfect and that means that sometimes we have to go, okay, that was wrong.
True. Absolutely true.
Sorry I interrupted your
That's okay. I interrupt you all the time. It's what I do. But next week, we are going to be talking about how to love your kids, which I think is really interesting because many people have different ideas of
Yeah.
what love looks like.
Right. That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So we'll be talking about that. I want to encourage you again that if this was helpful to you in any way, or you know somebody that might benefit from talking about this conversation, share.
Yes.
Right? If you haven't subscribed already,
Yeah.
subscribe now. We're on all the different podcasting platforms.
Yeah.
Make sure you team up with us on Instagram. Make sure that you follow us.
Yeah, connect with us. We want to get to know you. And if you're willing, we would so appreciate a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
Absolutely, yes.
Those kinds of things are going to help us get this out to more people. Yeah.
And then finally, if there's anything that you want us to talk about, become a part of the conversation.
Yes.
Throw it out there.
Yes.
Right? Just go on IG. You
Yep.
can DM us.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And just tell us different things that you would like us to go down the path of.
Yep.
Are we, like, do I have a doctorate in being a dad? Yes.
Sure.
Right? I've done the time.
Yeah.
No, I don't have a doctorate in being a dad. I don't think that exists.
No, I don't
But we
think so.
are like all other parents. We're doing this journey, and
Exactly.
we want to be doing the research for you and trying to curate some of the information that's
Absolutely.
out there on these topics.
If you're having trouble finding any of our links, there will be a link right in the description of this episode. So you can just click on that and it'll take you to our link tree, which gives you every single place that we are connected online. So it should be easy to find us.
So again, this has been Leading Real Life. We hope that it has helped you today to become a better leader in your own life
Yeah.
and in your home.
Yes. Have a great week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Getting